Well, over this weekend, the Democrats decided they were going to storm an ICE facility and demand that they are given access. I'm old enough to remember when this was considered an insurrection, a violent mob being led to a detention center that was holding violent murderers and rapists and protecting our country from the illegal invasion of the Democrats. Of course, the Democrats, they have lied continuously about this illegal invasion of this country as they facilitated it over the last 4 years, telling you how these are dreamers or how these are people that just coming to look for a better way of life. But really what they are is that they are coming through and they are being invaded in our country, all to bring in new votes for the Democrat Party. And today we'll walk through the fake news networks and the Democrats who lied to you about what happened that day as they go and they do what they always do. They cut clips and they show pieces to get you to come to a conclusion you would never come to if you knew the entire story. Today, we're going to show that with you today, exposing, as I do, your truth teller, Cash Loren, and exposing every single line hoax that the Democrats try to pull every single day. The Democrats, they have wanted our country invaded as they see this as new votes. Either now, as people vote, as they try to legalize or nationalize them and make them citizens of the United States, or later abusing the birthright citizenship of our Constitution to then make these people citizens in the future, their children, either now or later. They don't make a mistake for a second. This is all about the Democrats importing illegal voters. And Donald Trump was never supposed to come back in the White House. And when he did, all of a sudden, this scared the Democrats because their rigged game was up. All of a sudden, they're being exposed for the liars that they are. And Trump is now doing exactly everything that he campaigned on to you, that he was going to deport every single one of these illegal immigrants from this country as our Constitution and our laws require. And the Democrats are going to lie about their oversight abilities, say that they can just walk up to this facility, which is what they did on May 9th, is they just showed up and they thought they could demand that ICE let them into this facility without any prior warning or prior authorization. Like this is somehow their right. Well, I'm sure Marjorie Taylor Greene would love to hear that when she tried to enter the DC gulags to see all the January 6th people. Now imagine if she had tried to push her way through or try to fight all these people and fight the judges and fight the police officers and fight the security and fight the prison guards and try to force her way in. How well do you think that would have played out? But what is ultimately funny about all of that is exactly what the Democrats try to do here. See, they read a piece that says that Congress has oversight. So therefore, they thought because they have oversight, then they could just march into this facility. That is not how this works at all. It's a blatant lie. And they were arrested as they should. And it sounds like even more arrests are going to be coming here in the near future. So I'm going to play some clips for you. Watch how fake news tries to lie for these Democrats and what they did. And then we're going to play the actual footage so you can see what really happened on that day. So in this first clip, here is MSNBC lying for these Democrat insurrectionists who stormed a detention center.
Jersey, Alina Habba on Fox News there on the arrest of Newark Mayor Ras Baraka earlier today. Mayor Baraka was arrested by DHS this afternoon while he was protesting outside of a New Jersey jail recently converted into an ICE detention center. It was the second time Mayor Baraka had held protests outside the facility, a new facility built to hold up to 1,000 people. Footage of the arrest was captured by Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman.
All right, we're going to play that footage here for a minute, but you see the way that the mainstream media phrase that. You do not hate these people enough. What she said, this was just a protest, right? They were doing their constitutional right. They were standing outside, holding signs. She doesn't give you any context. And this is the way that the mainstream media, this is the number one, they lie to you, the American people, and why they're losing all of their influence over time. Because there's the one type of lie where it's really easy to assess when they actually blatantly lie to you in your face. And you can just say, no, this is a lie. Here is the facts. But most of the time with the mainstream media, what they do is that when they lie to you, is that they will give you the pieces of information they want you to know and then withhold all the information that they don't want you to know to try to get you to come to a conclusion that if you knew the entire story, you would never, ever come to the conclusion that they want you to come to. The conclusion they want you to come to is that Trump is mean and Trump is bad and Trump is evil. He's taking all these people from this country and he's deporting them without due process. If you come into this country illegally, being deported is the due process. And they don't tell you who these are, these gang members, these rapists, these murderers, and all the harm that they're doing to this country. And then they lie to you about the additional facts that went into this, where if you saw the whole footage like we're going to show, you would never come to the conclusions that they want you to come to. So next is the congressman, and she is again lying about what happened that day. Actually, you know what? I'm going to play this clip first. I'm going to play this so you can see what actually happened, and then watch her lying about pretending that she has no idea what happened to her on this day or why anybody was arrested or stopped. Okay, that doesn't look like just standing and protesting to me. That looks like a violent insurrection, right? Isn't that look way worse than anything we saw on January 6th? Are these not insurrectionists? Shouldn't they belong in the DC gulag for assaulting police officers? Yeah, I thought Democrats all this time were telling me that assaulting police officers was really, really bad. And that if anybody assaults a police officer, that they should belong in prison. Or how often the Democrats say that nobody is above the law. Well, apparently the Democrats are. Apparently, just like we say all the time about the left, how everything they tie about all their virtue signaling is 100% fake. But the mainstream media, they're more than happy to go along with these lies. So there is what you saw. You saw her pushing and shoving police officers. You even, what it looks like you saw is that she threw a punch at one of these ICE officers. Now let's go back to MSNBC pretending that they have no idea what these Democrats did wrong.
Played some of that sound there. It really seemed like a frenetic scene. And to my mind, just again, I wasn't there looking at it. I couldn't quite understand why this enormous push and the shoving and the putting of arms on people. What happened in that moment that precipitated the mayor of the city in which this facility exists being arrested?
We really have no idea. As mentioned, I, along with Congressman Menendez and Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman, was there to literally do our jobs. We are members of Congress. We are able to show up and do oversight statutory visits, and that's what we were there for. And then all of this commotion happened. We were trying to figure out why they were so hostile, why they were so aggressive, why they were pushing and shoving, and why all of this happened. And quite frankly, why was the mayor arrested? Because we're totally confused as to what was going on.
Okay, let me help her with that. The mayor was arrested because he trespassed on a federal prison. When the Democrats, when they lie about congressional oversight, what they're not telling you is that doesn't give them authority to just march up to a prison and demand immediately entry. Now, they do have policies such as a 24-hour notice, but that again is a policy, not a law. How often did you see Republicans ever since 2020 trying to get into these DC gulags to see these January 6th prisoners? Yet they were denied over and over and over again, yet they have oversight. It's the exact same thing here. Yes, the Congress does have oversight, but Congress does not have the authority to march right into one of these facilities and just demand that they open their gates and they can just walk through and do anything they want. They do not own the place. It's just that simple. But this MSNBC and all of them are continuing to lie about what happened there. So she has no idea why he was arrested or why they were met with any hostility. And I'll tell you what, she was told like the rest of them, you are trespassing. Go back to clip 1 when they said they were just trying to pretend that they were just innocently protesting, right? Just standing there holding signs. And now let's play the clip again of what they were actually doing. I don't know, that certainly looks insurrection-y to me. That looks like she assaulted police officers. Doesn't that get you thrown in the DC gulags? I thought that's how that works. Right? I thought Democrats were still pretending that they care about law enforcement. and protecting law enforcement from violent insurrectionists? Or does that only apply to when they're trying to throw innocent J6ers into prison for something they didn't do? And again, I'm not talking about the ones who actually assaulted police officers, because if you assault a police officer, you should belong in prison. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're anything in between. We should protect our police officers, but then that's got to apply to both sides. And that's where the Democrats have absolutely lost it. And then to make it even more remarkable, here is AOC, who the Democrats think should be the future of their party, and her very, her own words, look to see how AOC feels about all of this.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
I guess Democrats don't care about police officers anymore. I guess they don't care about violent insurrection anymore. If the Democrats do it, that's okay. See, that's their two-party tiered justice system. If you have Democrats do something that's wrong, then all of a sudden they all justify it. It's okay. How dare you lay a finger on a congresswoman? But you saw the clips of what she did. She was pushing police officers. It looks like she was taking swings at them. And there is even more clips that I would like to show you, but that is the worst of the worst. And we are done with our times on this show. As so much happens in a 24-hour space, to try to cram it all down into 1 hour, as I expertly do for you every day here on the Cash Loren Show. So now the Democrat mayor, he is going to pretend on running straight to CNN after he's released that he doesn't know why he should be arrested.
Well, I mean, I obviously was charged with federal trespassing and, which is a Class C misdemeanor. But, going through this is just really humiliating and painful. But the reality is this is what democracy is, right? And so, we are in dispute here, and we just living in a time period now where if you are opposed to the ideas of people, you could be threatened with arrest or intimidation. And that's exactly what's happening. And that's not the America that we want to be in. That's not the America that people chose to move thousands of miles from around the world to. This is not this place. And they're turning it into an authoritarianist government.
They go with all the normal rules. So apparently enforcing our laws is turning the United States into an authoritarian state. How do they look at the camera and say all that? And then you have Caitlin Acosta Collins. She's just sitting there, just let him go on and lie. Okay, they have access to all this footage just like we do. Did CNN, did MSNBC, have they shown any of it? What if this was reversed? And what if Republicans try to march into a federal building, in the federal prison, and started pushing security guards and hitting prison guards and attacking and trying to storm the fence? How do you think MSNBC and CNN would be going through and running that all the time? See, this is why this Democrat stunt has backfired yet again for fake news. And for these Democrats, they have learned absolutely nothing through any of this. They still think that they can lie and mislead you, the American voters, and get away with it because they have done it for decades. They're so used to only the mainstream media, being CNN, ABC, NBC, New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, Political Axios, that was the only way to get information out. And so they could sit there and they could just lie to you, the American voters. The fake news networks would then tell you absolutely nothing and just only hold the parts that they wanted you to know. And many of you would never know the difference. But now we have independent thinkers who are making their own programs. And these individuals, who I just want to keep calling journalists, but that's not what we are. But these individual creators are actually able to show you the whole truth. And that's why we are exploding at an incredible rate of growth. And that's all at the same time, while the mainstream media is dying, is they lie over and over again, just like we show in these clips. Right? They were just innocently protesting. They don't know why they were arrested. This is now turning into an authoritarian state. All we were trying to do is do our congressional duty, just like it's instructed to do by us. But when we play the full clips, when we show all of it, you can see that they're blatantly lying. And now the Democrats will find out that they're not above the law anymore, that they don't have access to the two-tier justice system anymore. If they're going to break these laws, then they should go to prison just like anybody else. I don't care who you are. The DHS, they're saying that there's going to be more charges coming. And I sure hope so. I sure hope all three of them and the rest of that mob is arrested and imprisoned. Just like I'd hope anybody from our side, if they were to pull that crap, they would be arrested and in prison too. Because there's the right way to go and do this. Is to do, if you're going to do your congressional oversight, then you schedule a meeting to go there. Like the policy states, you get permission so they know you're going before you show up. And then you show up and you do your job. But if you don't do any of that and then you just show up and they warn you that, hey, you are trespassing. If you don't leave, we will arrest you. Because that happened. And then they still tried to trespass and they still tried to force their way through the gates. And they are lucky that only one person was arrested. I hope the rest are arrested too. And I hope they're all thrown in jail. The Democrats need to learn that nobody's above the law. That they no longer benefit from the two-tier justice system anymore. If you're going to break the law, you're going to go to prison. With that, we're up against a break. We'll be back here in a few moments. We have a lot more to care. You're not going to miss it. This is the Cash Loren Show, where we have a lot happening as Donald Trump has done one of the biggest executive orders that he has ever done. And this is one that he tried to push through back in his first presidency of taking Big Pharma and holding them accounting for price gouging here in the United States while delivering cheaper pharmaceuticals, the exact same thing overseas. This executive order is hugely changed the entire landscape, what he would call most favored nations in his executive order. And essentially what this does is it would be what you would think the Democrats would be everything for. Is what this executive order does. It says that you can't price gouge here in the United States. And it forces them to tie their pricing of here to wherever it is lowest in the world. Thus meaning that no longer using America's wealth to price gouge us for pharmaceuticals and then go overseas, like to Europe and rest of the world, and charge very small amounts for the exact same medicine, essentially causing the United States to subsidize Big Pharma. You would have thought that this is something that the Democrats would be absolutely 100% for, that this is exactly what they would want. And Trump, in his most hilarious way, makes fun of all of this with one of his good friends.
I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat shot drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect, but he's rough.
Trump just has he has absolutely the best sense of humor for all this, the fat drug. Well, I'm sure that's going to rock mainstream media as how dare you use the word fat, right? What woke word is appropriate now for fat? I don't know. Whatever one it is today, if facts don't care about your feelings, at the end of the day, that's what ultimately matters. So this fat drug he's talking about, his buddy, is what this executive order is trying to push through, because here it was over $1,000. And I think when he went over there and he bought the exact same drug, I want to say it was $80 for the exact same thing. And what happens here in the United States with Big Pharma is that we're about 4% of the world's population, and yet Big Pharma makes about 2/3 of their profits here in the United States. And we in the United States, we tend to pay 3 times more than developed nations. And when I try to lie and say that this is somehow socialism that's created these better utopias for pharmaceuticals over line, or across the seas, What it's really meaning is that we are subsidizing it with our tax dollars here in the United States. And enough is enough. He tried to get this through back in 2020, and it was blocked temporarily by the courts. And then Trump left office. It was blocked temporarily by procedural issues. And then Joe Biden and his Democrats, they decided to completely abandon it. All while they brought part of it back. That this was the Trump administration, remember? And then Biden tried to pretend that he capped cost. You remember all throughout his presidency when he was lying over and over and over again about that. But it was all, again, it was a blatant lie from Joe Biden when he eventually gutted Trump's pharmaceuticals of reducing by, he says, 30 to 80%. And he goes, you want to know how good this is for you? Here is the pharma CEO, Stephen Oberg. He's calling this a foreign first pricing scheme that could cut Medicare for billions. What? How? Explain that to me. If we're saying that if you're going to charge overseas, that we as the United States, we're no longer going to subsidize that. That's not our job. We are America, right? We put our country first. Now, we no longer do what the Democrats have wanted to do all this time and put America last. That's not how MAGA works. We now put our country first, and we now put your health first. And part of putting your health first is making sure that you're not overpaying for pharmaceutical drugs. See, I thought this was one of the things that all of us could agree on. This is just another blatant lie from the left, and they talk about wanting to reduce drugs, but they've never done any of it. They love to talk about it in front of a camera, but as soon as they actually have the opportunity to do so, watch the Democrats fight this. Wait for it's not going to be too long. From they calling her a racist and a bigot and a homophobe and a transphobe, a white nationalist, all for trying to reduce pharmaceutical costs that they are pretending that they have been wanting to do this entire time. Do not doubt me for a second on any of this. Now, this is somehow a foreign first pricing scheme. That's exactly what Big Pharma is doing. That's literally what they're doing. That's not what Trump is doing. They're gouging pricing here with price fixing, and then they're using our tax dollars to subsidize overseas. It's actually the pharmaceuticals that are foreign first pricing scheme. But the Democrats and their buddies in Big Pharma or big government or big corporations, they always love to sit there and lie to you, the American people, about what they're actually pro and for. But we will no longer be ripped off. And Trump, he is so wise in getting all this going as fast as he is. The brilliance of Trump moving too fast for the Democrats' fake rage machine. They just cannot keep up with everything that is happening. They don't know what to rage against. It's funny watching them as Trump will do something. They'll say, okay, we're all supposed to be mad. And then Trump will go on and do something else. And, we're supposed to be mad about this. Forgetting that they were supposed to be mad about that. And then Trump goes on, executive order, executive order, executive order. And all of a sudden, they're just completely lost. And the one thing that Democrats are supposed to always be good at is being on the same team and all saying the same talking points. Suddenly, they can't keep up with any of it. We have been subsidizing these socialist countries that hate us. And I think one of the worst is the EU over and over and over again. And this will be no more. If Trump has shown anything, is that he is going to do and continue to do what he's always done, just like he ran in his campaign, is that he is going to put America first. Is that not everything that you voted for? And the Democrats, they know this. They know that Donald Trump's policies will work, but they don't work overnight. This isn't just like flipping a switch and all of a sudden the problems that are going on for the past 50 years are suddenly fixed. And so the Democrats, their strategy is to continue to lie to you. And when something bad happens, because you do have, when you're making these kind of changes, that there will be times when you will see ups and downs, like in the stock market or with the tariff wars or anything else. And so the Democrats, every time there is some short-term pain, they're trying to inflict as much pain on you as they can so that you will then give up your will to fight back. To fight back against their America First policies, what actually is what is hurting you every single day. Okay, it's not Trump. It's the Democrats, their America Last policies with the Rhino Uniparty. It hasn't worked for 50 years. It's not going to work for the next 50 years. Something has to change, but it's not an overnight fix. And as I talked about with you every single day, and you wise, smart, you independent thinker, you know the difference. You know that there will be some short-term pain for long-term gain. And what will that end up being exactly? We don't know. But one hoax after another has failed. When they tried to do the eggs hoaxes, and that didn't work, and then what did the fake news admit they were wrong? Then the Democrats say, okay, maybe Trump was right. No, none of that. They just try to move on to their next hoax, and they try to inflict more pain on you. They go on to the stock market. Oh, the stock market's crashing. This is all so bad. Stop doing Trump's policies. But then the stock market's correcting. Already, it's already coming roaring back. And then where are the Democrats? Where are they praising these policies for making your lives better? I don't see them. What about Tim Walz? Is he sitting there talking about how happy he was that the Tesla stock was crashing? Is he now happy that the stocks are recovering? Where are they? Same thing with fake news. Did they just move on from one hoax to the next hoax? When I say that you don't hate them enough, I mean that you don't hate them enough. Even if we talk about it and we expose them every single day, it's still not enough. Just like with Trump, as he is standing up and he is fighting for America this very moment. And he is doing it by putting tariffs on the world stage and using them to force manufacturing back to the United States, but then also to force free trade and to make it fair again. Instead of countries, what they're doing to us is a tariff the ever-living just gay out of us so that we can't put our products into their countries. But then they would flood our country with their products, destroying our local businesses. And these corporations using that grew and grew and grew to massive size. So as they took more and more share, more and more businesses here go under. And more manufacturing goes overseas to get whatever case, the cheap labor, the cheap goods, whatever the saying is cheap. We're going to cover that here in a second because it's not cheap for you. And then when you lose all these good paying jobs, they then replace it by building the federal government. You see, that's the scheme. That's the thing that they've always tried to do to you. That has been the big hoax when the Democrats, what they actually want at the end of the day, okay, everything else is to work towards this one single goal, to bring about communism. And they bring about communism by growing the government as big as they can until all that is left is the big brother government. And you're completely dependent on the government. You work for the government, and then you pay the government your taxes, and then they regulate every aspect of your life. That is the Democrats' ultimate goal, to have complete control over your entire life. And they were one election away from achieving that goal until Donald Trump came back and stood in the way. And now he's exposing their lies through the things like tariffs. And they're trying to inflict the short-term pain on you so you will lose your will to fight back. But Donald Trump, he correctly stood his ground. He took the hits for you, the American people, and now we are seeing the fruits of these labors. And the biggest one has been China, as China has been invading our country with products for years, all while taking over manufacturing and tariffing the ever-living daylights out of us so we can't compete there. It's essentially been a one-way ship. Raw goods go to China, they manufacture, and then they send everything back to the United States and flood our markets with goods. Businesses go under, the federal government grows. See how that works? And when we used to have in the United States, we used to only have 4 federal agencies. How many do we have now? Sometimes the federal government doesn't even know. There's so many alphabet soup, just career useless people now, sucking off the tit of the American taxpayer. When you have $5 trillion coming in and then $7 trillion going out, and then you wonder why the Democrats are fighting so hard to start Doge from finding out where this money is going. But the Democrats and American last policies are finally being exposed now. And as Trump's tariffs are coming around, and the fruit of that labor is now being bared out to you, the American voters. Just exactly like what you voted for. So they have come to a 90-day pause. And in this 90-day pause, the U.S. is reducing their tariffs on China from 145% to 30%. And then China is reducing their tariffs on U.S. imports from 125% to 10%. Trump calling this a total reset. And at the end of the day, this is all we want. We just want free trade. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with wanting a fair playing field is about the right word. We just want equal opportunity. And this America Last policy needs to come to an end because you've seen the damage it's done. The Democrats, when they lie about your cheap goods, what for you is actually cheaper? I mean, I'd certainly argue that the products are cheaper, that they're not made as well, they don't last as long, they break easier in many situations. What are they actually cheaper for you? What in your life has gotten cheaper? And if you try like an individual good, go ask your parents or your grandparents, because it's just not just the cost, even though the costs have skyrocketed. Really, the hidden cost there is that the percentage of your household income. For example, groceries used to cost 10%, and you have bags of groceries. Instead, now they'll cost 30 or 40% of your income, and you come home and you bring 1 or 2 bags and you have to choose what you buy. See, that's the difference here that they're trying to lie and hide you from. And the Democrats, they will go through all their normal lies, how they will talk about how that these Trump tariffs, they're a tax on you and how they're going to harm you. And if you don't stand up and you don't stop Trump and you don't keep doing what has not worked for the last 50 years, if you don't keep doing what's not working, then you will find out that they have been lying to you forever for power. That's what the Democrats are scared of. At the end of the day, do not doubt for a single second. And it's already being proven through, just like we saw with China, where they had so many countries coming through and trying to negotiate trade deals with the United States, as we are the biggest market and we are the biggest consumer economy in the world. Everybody wants to do business here. Now we need to make it fair, not just for putting America fast over foreign trade, but also putting America first to set that we defund the federal government and we bring back manufacturing so you are not dependent on the federal government and you are not going in debt for these degrees that you don't need to go work for the federal government, for it to be a career useless person. This is what we're going to end now, and bring manufacturing back and bring the trades back. This is only just over 100 days in, and you're going to be absolutely shocked by this total reset, making America first and bringing back the golden age. You keep fighting, you stand your ground, just wait. Because you have not seen anything yet. We are just getting started to fight. We are just getting starting to winning. Countries like Asia and the rest of the world, they only understand strength. Peace through strength, militarily and economically. And Donald Trump has shown that strength, and now they're being forced to respect it. So God bless the USA. And with that, we are up against another break. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. We have a lot more to cover. You're not going to miss it. This is the Cash Loren Show. Well, we have an issue that the Democrats have created where they have allowed our country to be invaded by tens of millions of illegal immigrants. And now they've allowed our country to be invaded. They're trying to stop them from being deported. I don't know how to say this any more clearer when the Democrats try to lie and talk about constitutional crisis or due process. Now, if you come into this country illegally, being deported is the due process. This whole insane idea that the Democrats and their judges do absolutely nothing and allow tens of millions of people to pour into our country, and now we're going to pretend that every single one of them, now that we're here, we're going to have tens of millions of trials for every single one, is absolutely insane. Donald Trump is not going to put up with this forever. And we'll see at some point, as Donald Trump has promised, they are going to do something about this. I think what Donald Trump is trying to do now is he wants to fight this in a way where he wants SCOTUS to essentially stand up and do their job. And if SCOTUS doesn't do that, at some point, Trump is going to use his Article 2 authority as has been given right to him by the Constitution of the United States. I cannot be any more clear about this. Okay, that authority given to Donald Trump, the judges have no say in it whatsoever. Any more than Donald Trump has any say over Congress writing law. That is the actual separation of power. Donald Trump is the executive, Congress writes the laws, the judges, the federal judges, they do the judicial side, meaning individual cases. This isn't a mother may I or Simon Says with every single decision that Donald Trump makes. And the Democrats, as they go through, they try to push this. Donald Trump posted this on his True Social, and it goes a bit long. But it says, our country has been invaded by 21 million illegal immigrants, many who are murderers and criminals of the highest order. And if we aren't allowed to remove them, then because of the radical and incompetent court system, the U.S. would quickly and violently become a more crime-ridden third world nation, never to be seen great again. Our lawyers should state the fact when they're going before the United States Supreme Court and all other courts. I was elected in a landslide. I won all 7 swing states, 312 in the Electoral College, 2,750 of the 512 districts, easily won the popular vote, and I will be allowed to do my job. Okay, not only allowed, this isn't permission. How many of you voted for a judge? 0. Now, how many of you voted for Donald Trump? Almost 80 million of you voted for Trump. And these deportations, they're already happening, and they will continue to happen. And the Democrats, they're making fun, and they're trying to push for people like Garcia, as he is a citizen of El Salvador, and some of that's bad that Donald Trump put him back in his home where he belongs. Completely and absolutely insane. But now, even here in the United States, the Democrats, they're trying to protect illegal immigrants. We ran the first segment in this today's show where they were going and they were trying to invade an ICE detention agency, is what it looks like to me was a violent insurrection. But they are also using tax dollars to try to protect illegal immigrants. And this comes from Benning Johnson. He says, breaking, the Department of Homeland Security launches investigation into the state of California for providing criminals with federal benefits. Right? Meaning that your federal benefits, you are meant for your tax dollars. You being a U.S. citizen. It's not meant to be transferred over to illegal immigrants. They force you to pay taxes, and then they use that tax money for people who never should have been here in the first place. You know, get rid of them instead and stop doing the taxes. Hey, don't put them up in hotels. Don't put them up for fee. Don't use your Medicare to do medical for them. And don't use your Social Security to feed them. That's exactly what the Democrats are trying to do. This is something that they've gone away with for decades. And the thing is, as they get away with it, they become more and more bold. They just can't think that they can get caught. Just like any criminal, they usually typically break the law something small. Right? They're like steal a piece of bubble gum or something, right? They don't start with robbing a bank. A violent murderer typically doesn't start with murder. There's usually something that happens first. They have anger issues that are addressed. Maybe they start pushing, they start punching, they get in a couple fights, and then all of a sudden it escalates. There was a sheriff a while back, he was giving the statistics. I want to say he said a typical person who commits murder, they have been arrested 17 times before they actually commit that crime. And how many of you see this bear out over and over again when the Democrats, they will release criminals over and over and over again, and then they go through and they try to pretend that, you know, it's racist or it's not equitable to lock people up, to lock criminals up. When the reality is, if you just locked them up in the first place, the crimes would never escalate. Now, I'm not against second chances, but I am against 10th, 11th, 12th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th chance. Those I am against. Hey, we all make mistakes. We all do bad stuff. And I do believe in the opportunity to change your life around. But at some point, you have to say enough is enough. Now, why does it come into this story with the illegal immigrants? Because they are trying to use this illegal immigration and then use your tax dollars to fund it, which should be, and I believe is criminal. But you have here Nick Sorter, he posts, just said Trump administration has launched a program in the state of California for providing federal benefits to illegal immigrants. Goes on to say, Kristi Noem, radical left politicians in California prioritize illegal aliens over our own citizens, including by giving illegal aliens access to cash benefits. Right? Your tax dollars being redistributed to people who should never be in the first place. I don't know what should piss you off more. And the combo of that, and then them continuing to release criminals over and over again. Los Angeles County is in the crosshairs first, but I'm sure there's a treasure trove of fraud. And I say good. I hope the Democrats start to learn that they are not above the law. Finally, they enjoyed it for far too long. And they've gotten away with this forever. They take your tax dollars and then they redistribute it to their friends or to whatever priority they want to do. And then all of a sudden, a place like California, they're deeply in debt and they're demanding the federal government gives them more money to subsidize for it. Or they want to increase taxes. And then they keep trying to tell you how you should vote for them because that's what makes this fair and equitable. No more. And then to finish off this absolute hypocrisy, did you see this one that broke over the weekend? This is the newest Democrat hoax. Remember, like what we just showed, how they're giving billions of your tax dollars to illegal immigrants. Their newest hoax and rage is trying to pretend that some foreign government will give Donald Trump a luxury jet to fly around the country. Okay, have you seen this hoax? This is absolutely hilarious. So this comes through the Quatar, who are now offering a luxury 747 jet to the Trump administration to be used as Air Force One. It's apparently is about $400 million jet. And a lot of this comes from because the Boeing, their new Air Force One, has all been delayed all the way back to 2027. It is now $2 billion in overruns. Now the luxury jet is supposed to be temporary until Boeing fixes their jet. But of course, the Democrats, they run with, oh, this is bribery, and this is corruption, and this is Donald Trump taking foreign favors in exchange for what they don't know. They're completely making up. And I'd say, what about the big guy? Where were all these concerns about bribery and corruption when Joe Biden's son was sitting on the board of Burisma and taking in millions of dollars from something that he had no expertise in? And then Joe Biden goes over to Ukraine and gets the prosecutor fired who was investigating his son's company. Where were the Democrats? Where were they when there was 10% for the big guy? Where were they when they were actual corruption? See, this is the difference for the Democrats. They don't care about corruption. They don't care about anything illegal at all. All the Democrats care about is power. And this hypocrisy about screaming about corruption and foreign ties is an absolute blatant hoax. Again, just another lie from the left. That simple. And I understand some of the concerns from our side of the fence, but this is not going to Trump. This is going to the Department of Defense. You know what this is no different in? This is no different than when they held a celebration for our military, and then they tried to make it about like Donald Trump was marching the military because it was his birthday. This is the same kind of hoax. It happens over and over and over again. They learn no lessons from any of this. Not a single one. And I find it truly hilarious that they just continue to double down on all this stuff that has put them on the wrong side over and over and over again. Please continue to learn nothing, Democrats. Please, I beg you. Please do absolutely nothing right and then wonder why you're down in the 20%. As Donald Trump continues to put our country first and MAGA becomes more and more popular. Keep defending people like Garcia, who is an El Salvador prisoner, who is back in El Salvador where he belongs. And I bring this last part up as we got at the end of the show here, where I'm going to play this clip where Stephen Miller, he absolutely obliterates Caitlin Acosta-Collins. He has been one of Trump's best picks as she tries to frame the normal fake news around this violent, wife-beating gang member that the Democrats are trying to bring back to this country because they want it invaded for votes. So watch how she is destroyed.
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. With respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. And I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
See, this is the facts. These are the Democrats. These are the rich. These are the elite liberals. Hey, they don't have these migrants living next to them. They have these illegal aliens living in your cities next to you, destroying your area, not theirs. You will see how fake the Democrats' fake virtue signaling is remember when they just sent just 2 planes into Martha's Vineyard? What did the Democrats do immediately? They kicked every single one out right past their sign which says nobody is illegal for their fake virtue signaling. And then they hired an army of lawyers to try to sue to stop that from ever happening again. I wonder how many empty bedrooms sit in Martha's Vineyard that could house all the illegal immigrants that the Democrats, they continue to pretend to care about.
So you don't plan to ask for his help to get him back? Is that your position? Well,
no version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it per the court can only be directed to him.
Again, Stephen Miller blowing her up with facts, but the Democrats, they hate when facts get in the way of their narrative. Their narrative is he's just some dreamer, right? He was some union worker. He was a married man. He had kids, and that he was just here for the American dream. When the reality was he was a gang-banging, wife-beating, and very likely human trafficking criminal. Now, putting all that aside, he was still here illegal. If you come here in this country illegally, you are by definition illegal, and due process is deporting you back to your country without all the other crimes. But what's mostly ironic about the Garcia situation is he had a valid deportation order signed by judges. So all this due process that the Democrats are lying about was already done in Garcia's case. The only stipulation was him not going back to El Salvador.
I asked President Bukele, can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm suppose you're not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
Well, Mr.
You're not suggesting that I release a terrorist back in the United States, are you? Well, yes, that's exactly what the Democrats are demanding because they see future voters. And once you deport 1, then you can deport 10. Once you deport 10, you can deport 100, 100, 1,000, 1,000, a million, 10 million. See, this is why the Democrats are trying to fight for every single inch because they know once they lose one domino, it collapses the rest of their hoax immediately.
President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that.
And so the Supreme Court, going back to the next Democrats' hoax, this 9-0 rule that they've been lying about, was that we would facilitate the return. And that's only if El Salvador actually tried to return him to the United States. But even if that happened, the moment he stepped on U.S. ground, he would immediately be arrested again because he's here illegally. There is no scenario that him or anyone else comes in this country at the end of the day.
It must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that?
Well, it's a legal dispute, so I just wanted to get some clarity on it, Mr. President.
That's why nobody watches you anymore. You have no.
Yeah, she doesn't want any clarity on anything. She wants the Democrats' narrative. She wants Trump to be this big, mean, evil orange man who's harming these people of color who just want to live here and live the American life. Their hoax is absolutely collapsed. The immigration became the number 2 issue, and it even shocked CNN when they asked their own audience, the fake news audience, about illegal immigration. 56% of fake news audience said 100% deportation. Okay, not just the so-called criminals or gang members, but every single illegal immigrant should be deported. And now these activist judges are trying to stand in the way of what you, the American people, voted for. And Donald Trump's executive authority will deport them one way or another. And with that, we're out of time for today's show. Thank each and every one for you for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow, and God bless the USA. Greetings, independent thinkers. We have come to a top of another hour. If you're enjoying this content, please make sure you have subscribed, turn on notifications, but most importantly, share an American First message with your friends and family so we can help fight back against the Democrats and their propagandists over at the fake news networks. Also, take a moment to consider subscribing to us on Locals at the Cash Loren Show, where for a very small amount of money every month, you'll get many additional perks, including your name at the end of videos. I could be up the screen here in just a moment, a follow and increased engagement and exclusive lists on that I use on X. That sounds interesting to you. Go over to locals.com at the Cash Loren Show, hit the subscribe button for about a cup of coffee a month, and help us stay independent and free of the fake news networks and bring you the truth every single day, just like these fine patriots have. At the end of the video, be on your screen here in just a moment.